And welcome to another quick episode of Price Check. Today we're going to take a look at some very fine Georgian silver items from, I believe, the 18th to the early 20th century. Nothing modern in here. There are some early 20th century pieces that are Art Deco. Nothing goes to mid-century. And most of these things at this point are all considered antiques. There are some people who might feel the need to be sticklers about Art Deco for another 10 years, but at times it's worthwhile reminding them that it's not the 80s and 90s anymore, and that it's actually the 20s again. Ugh. So, without further ado, we've got 5 great items that sold recently that we're going to take a look at. If you like this kind of stuff, if you like antiques, vintage, and prices, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. We're happy to have you, and let's get right in. So, huge sale price it would look like here for this George George II London sterling silver tea caddy. I wonder if we get a size. I mean, I'm sure we do get a size description. This is quite small. 3 3/8 inch to 3/8 inch by 4.5 inch. That makes this a pretty regular sized tea caddy. The thing that is exceptional about it is this age. It is 280 years old this year. And given that age, this actually looks pretty good to me. The metalworking is in great condition. The latch appears to be working. The key still exists. Being from the early, middle 18th century, this would have locked to keep the tea away from servants that might have been deemed less than trustworthy. Um, Frankly, I think that's kind of crap, but that's why these items were locked up, as tea was seen as something of value that could be stolen from the household. And yeah, you'd have a key, usually residing with either the head of staff or someone in particular whose responsibility it was to manage the tea box. And yeah, just really great appearance here on this item. I don't even want to describe how this was worked, because I'm not entirely sure how it would have been done at this time. We can say that it must have been taken remarkable care of. It does not appear to have been polished to death or anything else that you might see with items of this age. And wow. So we have wonderful hallmarks. Perhaps the top mark is described. It is not. So a lot of things that could be. I'm not a English silver expert. I'm not a silver expert on any particular type of silver. I am very much a generalist that rather enjoys fine metal items like this. So it'd be interesting to know if somebody that's watching knows what this is. I would assume it could potentially be the mark. It could be, or the maker's mark. It could be a mark for where this was. I don't see any strong provenance mentioned here, but given the sale price, it could be something. Could also just be George Wicks. But let's move on to another fine 18th century piece here. And I pulled this one, which sold for about $1,900, because people ask about pocket watches a lot. And frankly, they're not as common as they used to be. Pocket watches used to appear here and there quite a bit, but that is kind of coming to a close. And I mean, the big thing with the pocket watch is going to be, does it work, and what is it made out of, and when is it from? It's interesting here. $1,900 is quite a good price to get for a pocket watch, but considering the age of almost 260 years, uh, it almost might feel a little soft compared to some other fine metal items, especially other types of jewelry. Although I guess I could say that sterling jewelry from 1760 probably would not catch this price. But it's interesting to see this right after the George Wicks piece that sells for almost 5 times this. Um, and yes, there are, of course, reasons. But let's take a look at this repoussé item. Really nice. I can't see it bigger. Really nice working here. Looks to be in relatively good condition, ignoring the age. Still seems to be relatively flush when closed. These items seem original or well matched. Um, painting's not bad. I've certainly seen things in a lot worse condition given the age, and oh, isn't that extraordinary to see that working on the inside there that's been done here. And it looks like we've got some worn out hallmarks here that would identify it to the London Assay Office. And a very, very 18th century scene. We've got the sort of medieval classical theme with some horses and looks like a dog or a cat. Probably a dog would be my bet. And yes, that is just truly, truly gorgeous. Imagine the amount of work and how clever you would have to be perceived to be doing this work in the 18th century. Very cool. And here we have a Art Deco sterling silver yellow striped cigarette case from 1932. $325, $460 is quite a strong price for an item like this, but it looks like it is in pretty good condition, and I think these are really gaining popularity still for business cards. Folks seem to just love pulling one of these out and pulling some business cards out. It's a great little talking point, and it certainly helps people remember you. So, the only thing that we can say is the inside looks like in pretty good condition. The exterior is quite nice condition, given how rough these items are meant to be written. Most people who use these still will just put them in their pocket all day. And silver being a softer metal, well, things happen over time. So, really nice piece, good sale price. And that leads us on to one of the top makers from London. And we have a Sampson and Morden Company cigar piercer made in 1933. You can really just kind of pull the period right out of it. We've got this subtle Art Deco look that's a little bit techy and probably a fine men's antique item. Probably a lot of folks out there that would be interested in having something like this for the rare occasion that they do want to bust out a cigar. I guess folks could smoke cigars more frequently with this, as long as they are adhering to local guidelines for smoking. But quite a nice item, if you ask me. And of course, you don't need to smoke to collect these items. Very cool. And nice little demonstration of how it works. Quite nice. I'm not surprised that it did so well. And lastly, I picked one of my favorite items from a slightly different period than both of the ones we've discussed so far. 1827, so sort of like the late Regency period, end of the Regency period in England. And here we have a set of fine asparagus servers. This is an item that folks will commonly ask, what is this? What is this? They find it at sales, or they pick it up, or they see it at an antique store, and sometimes people call it sugar tongs, ice tongs, and there certainly are those types of tongs, but the asparagus tongs are their own thing. And they're meant to grab a couple pieces of asparagus. You can imagine how they would fit right inside of there, and you would serve them directly onto the plate. And you'll notice, and this is something that I always thought was interesting, is this sort of silverware design that we have now is very reminiscent of, and I'm not talking about like any specific silverware. I'm talking if you go to a store, like a department store, and go sit down and look at their silverware offerings. I would be shocked if you did not see some stylistic similarities with this sort of Regency late 18th century, early 19th century patterning that was going on. I mean, of course, that assumes you're in a Western department store, but this sort of stylization has been incredibly influential. And one of the things that everyone likes about asparagus tongs is that they are certainly a hearty amount of silver. There we have the WC hallmark and the rest of the hallmarks. I can't quite make them out. It'd be the WC maker's mark, I'd guess. And then the rest of the hallmarks are here on the handle, but I can't quite make them out here, but I would guess we have some close-ups. So got some identifying hallmarks. These are not the greatest photos. I certainly see the lion right there. And do we have any provenance? No, we do not. That's okay. It's quite a nice item. And 6 bids up to $247.50, starting all the way at $225. So this didn't run too far, but overall, probably a result that they're happy with. So, go ahead and, yeah, gosh, maybe that's a happy buyer. Jeez. I need to get some stuff online, huh? If this is what's going on. Alright, well, not a bad place to end it there. I really appreciate folks for dropping by with the videos. We love doing these, looking at sale prices, looking at sold prices, and just exploring online together. So, thanks for dropping by. If you like those things, make sure to hit the subscribe button, drop the like. All that stuff helps us out on the channel. And thank you for hanging out with us today.